Hello Gothamites, and welcome to another Spotlight on Gotham. My name is Discourse, and today I'll be taking you through the Joker Crew that came in the 2020 3rd edition starter set Back to Gotham. We discussed before how the Joker Crew consists mostly of maniacs and expendable henchmen, and this box does not disappoint in that regard.
So first we're going to examine the Joker that came in this box, and it's obviously a very pretty model. In many ways, this is the most vanilla iteration of the Joker and probably the closest depiction there is of the classic version that we see in media like the animated series. He comes with a host of powerful special actions. Demotivate allows him to inflict enervating to on enemies. Intimidate prevents targets from performing special actions and reduces their willpower. And in my opinion, his strongest special, the Kill Them ability, adds 2 attack markers to a friendly henchman in 4 inches. This plays well into the usual Joker playstyle of wide crews filled with henchmen, as it allows him to increase the damage of his henchmen, turning a forgettable activation into a major danger for the opponent. Next, he comes with the Chaosation trait. This gives all henchmen in his crew the Trickster trait for the game, and it grants his crew the capacity to hold their Audacity markers in reserve during the Raise the Plan phase, and then distribute them to friendly models with the Trickster trait when they activate in Phase 3, as desired. This is a major cornerstone of the Joker Crew playstyle, and it grants him a major amount of flexibility, as he doesn't have to lock in his strategy during the Raise the Plan phase, and instead he can choose as and when he wishes a model to use their Audacity when they activate. As we will see in the coming videos, this trait can be found on every Joker. Important to note here is that it is only henchmen that get this trait, so it does not apply to sidekicks or free agents. This again feeds into the Joker's henchman heavy playstyle. He himself, of course, has the Trickster trait. This allows him to take advantage of his Chaos ability. He has the Psycho trait, which means his willpower cannot be reduced, which is not usually relevant, but it is a nice addition to the model. He has Scheming 1, which allows him to move a single suspect marker 4 inches during the Raise the Plan phase. This can be incredibly powerful, and you can use this to move superfluous suspect markers away from relevant spaces, or move Joker teeth generated by his Bite the Dust card closer to their intended targets. This adds a nice bit of battlefield control that his crew otherwise lacks. His next trait is to Prove a Point, which has 2 components. First is a passive, which reduces enemy models' willpower value by 1 within line of sight and 6 inches. Additionally, as an extra action, and crucially, this is not a special action, so it can be taken in lieu of a tactical, special, or movement action. He can target an enemy model within 8 inches and line of sight to prevent them from performing special actions and make them lose an additional die when performing willpower rolls. He is armed with Joker's Gun. This is a short-range, crit-paralyzed gun with a rate of fire of 2 that deals 3 blood damage per hit. This is an extremely frightening weapon, and it has the potential to deal upwards of 9 blood damage to a single model. Enemy pieces will therefore wish to stay out of this short range if they can help it. He is also armed with a poison knife, which can help activate some of his cards like Seasoning the Mix that require victims of poison to be made casualties, and can also be used in desperate times, though perhaps it's best not to rely on it as a mainstay. His stats are not incredibly impressive. He has a relatively tanky amount of willpower and endurance, yes, but coupled with a defense of 4, which is pretty average for bosses, this means he isn't particularly vulnerable, but he isn't a combat powerhouse either. He has a low movement of 8 and an average attack of 4. This all combines to create a model that is a strong linchpin to the rest of his crew. He provides some invaluable support abilities, but he won't be killing many strong pieces on his own. Rather, he should move with his crew members and enable them to do his dirty work for him. Next up, we have Harley Quinn. The version that came in this box is the classic animated series style Harley, as opposed to the comic versions that appeared in the 2nd edition of the Batman Miniatures game. She has a few special actions, the first attention-grabbing one being a 360-degree strike. This allows her to spin her mallet, attacking all models, including allies, in her 1-inch reach. This can be incredibly powerful, as her ridiculous movement can allow her to get into a position where this is particularly devastating. Perhaps less flashy, but still incredibly powerful, is that she comes with the Distract trait. This is possibly my favourite special action in the game. It lowers the defense of a target model by 1 until the end of the round. This can be crippling to weaker pieces, or even allow a powerful enemy combatant to suddenly be within range of killing for your crew. The fact that the target does not get to oppose this in any way means that it can even be used against high willpower enemies like Batman. She also has Discourage, which requires an opposed willpower roll, and if it is successful, the enemy suffers -2 to their willpower. This is fine, though nothing to really write home about. She comes with the Affinity Poison Ivy trait for those fans seeking to emulate the Harley and Ivy episode of the anime series, which is always appreciated by me. She also has Acrobat, which is one of the top tier abilities in the game. This allows her to dodge gunfire. That is to say, she may make an effort to reduce the attack dice from a ranged attack that targets her, just as if it was a melee attack. Additionally, this gives her a +1 inch to her movement, and it means that she does not suffer impaired movement for jumping or stand-up actions. She also comes with the fast keyword. This gives her another +2 movement, and because she comes with a 12 movement at base, all these keywords together gives her a whopping 15 inches of movement. She can basically get anywhere she wants on the board. Her weapon is a mallet and it deals 2 stun damage. This doesn't synergize particularly well with the Joker playstyle, though it doesn't really go against the green either. The Joker Crew typically wants to deal blood damage, but it isn't particularly a constraint to this, like the League of Assassins are, for example. Her willpower of 6 and endurance of 7 means that she can't afford to take too much damage, and her average defense of 4 means that she can't stand up to attacks particularly well either. She has the acrobatic trait, of course, and this means that she is well protected from gunfire. She has an average attack of 4, and though her strength die hits on a 5+, the devastating attribute of her mallet gives her 2 strength die, and the heavy attribute gives her +1 to these rolls. Overall, she is an incredibly mobile model, and she comes with a devastating attack. She can push deep into enemy territory and act as a huge disruption for the opponent. And all of this is bundled into a 70 rep, 0 funding cost model. This is incredibly cheap for what you get. In my opinion, this model is one of the most efficient models in the game, and I rarely leave home without her. And now we come to Thug 1, who I like to personally call Twist. And he's a surprisingly strong model. Although he's not much to look at, he has no real traits. He comes with 5 willpower and 5 endurance, and honestly, this is quite tanky for a lowly Joker goon. He comes with a henchman standard attack and defense of 3 each, and his only real standout is the movement of 10, which makes him a bit faster than his comrades. His weapon is a single blood knife that rerolls strength rolls, which is fine, though not particularly impressive. He comes in at 19 reputation, so he's middle of the pack in terms of cost. It should be noted here that all the henchman models in this box are pretty cheap for what you get, and they are all well costed in the grand scheme of things. Thug 1 works best when using his movement allowance of 10 to take opportune positions to place suspect markers down. He's resilient enough that he is potentially able to survive an attack from stronger enemies, but he honestly doesn't do very well in combat. And now we come to Thug 2. This piece is probably the weakest model in the Joker half of the box, which is unfortunate because it looks pretty cool in my opinion. He comes with a template shotgun weapon that has a rate of fire of 1. His critical weakness is that the gun itself does not have assault, nor does he have any way to fire on the moon. This means that the gun will rarely roll a strength die and not be able to take advantage of the firearm trait. Instead, it will usually be relegated to rolling a single die against any target caught under the template. Compounding this is the fact that the weapon itself only deals an unimpressive single blood stun damage. It's rare that you'll be able to catch more than 1 or 2 models under this template. Typically speaking, you'd rather have been able to focus fire down one anyway. He comes with a lowly 4 willpower, 4 endurance, and a crippling defense of 2 means that he will not be able to stand up to most attacks. His attack score of 3 means he can't really dish out damage in melee either, and his movement of 8 means he isn't particularly fast. The only real upside to this model is that it is pretty cheap at 17 reputation, though he can eat into the crew fund limit with his cost of $250. More often than not, you'll want to leave this model at home. Next, we have Thug 3, who I like to call Dread. He has an identical list of characteristics as Thug 2, and yet he costs 3 more reputation. However, where Thug 2 was armed with a weak weapon, Thug 3 is armed with a chainsaw. This is a 3 blood damage weapon whose strength die always hits on a 3+, and a missed strength die can even be re-rolled if necessary, giving this chainsaw maniac 2 damage markers through the use of the Kill Them trait from the Joker in this box can create a suddenly very powerful and dangerous model. And all for the low price of a Joker special action. And let's be honest, you were probably giving Joker an Audacity marker anyway. Thug 3 does particularly well against low defense, high endurance models, as his attack of 3 isn't that impressive. This is a great model, however, don't expect him to last too long. He is a glass cannon, as he still has a defensive 2 and only 4 willpower and endurance. He does bring a lot of upside, but he is likely to be the first target of your enemy. This is fine because he only costs 20 reputation anyway. Anyone that's both expendable and can also make your opponent sweat is worth taking, in my opinion. Now we come to Thug 4. This model is nice and sturdy. He comes with a defense 3 stat. Unfortunately, his 4 willpower and 4 endurance means that he won't be able to take too much damage before succumbing. Luckily, however, he does only cost 18 reputation, so who cares if he dies? He brings a 2 blood damage axe that can reroll field attack dice rolls, and he gains a +1 to his strength. This goon is a solid mainstay. He doesn't excel at any one piece on the board, but he's solid for the low price. Another model to bring, I think. Thug 5 is an interesting model. Again, he comes with the same stats as Thug 4. 4 willpower, 4 endurance, and 3 defense. However, he is armed with 2 automatic guns. These each deal 1 blood, 1 stun damage, so they're not particularly impressive. They each have a rate of fire of 3, so they will be outputting a fair amount of dice. And they are light, meaning they can be fired in melee. Unfortunately, their short range does mean he needs to get up close in order to fire them without triggering any modifiers. This is an unenticing proposition, considering his low willpower and defense. What raises the bar for this henchman is that he has the Gunman's special action. This allows him to fire his gun twice, meaning that he essentially gets to roll 6 attack dice and 2 strength dice when firing his weapon, in the instance that there's no modifiers, of course. This should concern your opponent greatly, because it can kill models. Unfortunately, he comes out at 23 reputation, which, while cheap in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to henchmen for the Joker, it's a bit of a premium cost. This is the most expensive Joker henchman in the box, though I do think he justifies this cost. It should be noted that you do get a 2-for-1 deal on the automatic guns. Usually only one of these guns would cost $350, but Thug 5 gets 2. Even if you're not using the gunman trait, this is still relevant because it essentially doubles his ammo. Next, we come to Thug 6. Thug 6 is an essential model for any Joker crew because he is one of only 2 models with the bodyguard trait the Joker can take. He comes in at 20 reputation, so he is again pretty cheap when it comes to models overall, though he's one of the higher costed henchmen in this box. He has 5 willpower and 4 endurance, which is fine for a henchman, but he won't stand up to a sustained beatdown. He has a defense 3, which is fine. It's certainly leagues better than defense 2. The bodyguard trait allows him to suffer a stun damage in order to take damage on behalf of a friendly model with the leader or sidekick rank. He essentially puts his face in the way of Batman's fist. This is invaluable because it prevents combat monsters like Batman, or Bane, simply stampeding over trickier models like the Joker. If they go all out, this man can step in. The issue is, however, is that you're probably only going to be able to do this once, because anything stronger than a stiff breeze will knock this thug out. He comes equipped with a single stun damage weapon, which is pretty poor, although it is handy and heavy, which allows him to reroll field attack dice rolls and gives him +1 to his strength. So, there you have it, the return to Gotham Joker Crew. The Joker and Harley models are iconic versions of their characters, and their miniatures in this box are extremely competitive. The henchmen contained within are very strong for what they bring, and even if they are individually quite weak, they add a lot of flexibility to any crew. It should be noted that they are of the unknown affiliation, so they can actually be fielded by anyone except for Batman. Not counting Deadshot, Joker, Harley, and the henchmen in this box come to 279 reputation and 900 funding, which leaves ample space for a few additional models from other collections. Thank you for joining me this evening, and I hope you will join me again in Gotham next time, where I will be providing an overview of the Joker Bot box released during the second edition of the Batman Miniatures game, Clown Party.